Most men don't break when they're angry. They break when they fall silent. It doesn't happen in the middle of the argument or after the betrayal. It happens somewhere in between, when a man realizes no one's listening anymore. That's the moment he stops fighting for connection, stops explaining himself, stops hoping anyone will see the wounds beneath his calm. That's where the real silence begins. Not the kind you can hear, but the one that gathers inside his chest. Slowly, quietly, like fog that never leaves. Once upon a time, he cared too deeply. He sent long messages that went unread, waited for calls that never came, gave love freely to people who only took what was convenient. He was the man who listened, who held everything together while falling apart himself. But no one asked what it cost him. No one noticed the weight he carried. They told him to be strong, to stop overthinking, to move on. So he did. At first, it was self-defense. Then it became habit. Eventually, it became identity. The man who used to talk went quiet. The one who loved deeply withdrew. The one who hoped stopped believing. Now he wears calmness like armor. He smiles while he's breaking. He laughs when he feels nothing. He says, "I'm good," because no one wants the truth anymore. But inside, he knows. He didn't stop believing in love. Love stopped believing in him. It stopped rewarding honesty, stopped nurturing effort, stopped feeling safe. And so he fell silent. Not out of hate, but out of exhaustion. Because there are only so many times a man can reach out and touch nothing before his heart goes numb. This is the birth of the masculine void. Not fire, not rage, just quiet emptiness. The sound of a man who once wanted to be loved, finally realizing he's easier to keep when he feels nothing at all. The weight of rejection. Every man remembers the moment he stopped trying. It wasn't dramatic. No slammed doors, no shouting. Just a quiet realization that no matter how much he gave, it would never be enough. That's the cruel thing about rejection. It doesn't always come with words. Sometimes it arrives in silence, in the way her eyes stop lighting up when he walks in the way her voice turns colder, shorter, like he's become a stranger in his own story. At first, he tries to fix it. He buys flowers, apologizes for things he didn't do, waits for the old version of her to come back. But she doesn't, and so he starts to shrink. Each unanswered text gets heavier. Each half-hearted kiss reminds him of what's already gone. The man who once believed he could make love work begins to fade, because rejection isn't just being left, it's being unseen while you're still there. It's sitting across from someone who's already gone. It's lying next to a body that no longer reaches for yours. Men don't talk about this kind of pain. They don't have places to. When they try, they're called weak, needy, emotional, so they swallow it, carry it, pretend it's easy, but inside the cracks deepen until one day he looks in the mirror and doesn't recognize the man staring back. He's not angry anymore. He's empty. That's what no one sees, how rejection doesn't break a man all at once. It erodes him, piece by piece. Every dismissive sigh, every cold reply, every moment he realizes his love has become inconvenient. So he stops trying, stops reaching, stops showing up. Not because he stopped caring, because caring hurts more than being alone. And that's when the masculine void deepens, when he learns that love isn't safe, emotion isn't valued, and silence is the only thing the world can't use against him. He doesn't hate love. He just stopped believing it was ever meant for men like him. The collapse of meaning. Some heartbreak doesn't come from loss. It comes from staying, from showing up every day, pretending it still means something when deep down it doesn't. That's how love dies for men. Not with betrayal, but with quiet erosion. He stays long after he should have walked away. He says the right things, plays his part, does what's expected, but something inside is gone. Love used to be purpose, meaning, the reason the long days were bearable, the hard nights softer. Now it's just another duty, another measure of failure. He remembers when love felt real, when words mattered, when her gaze held warmth. But over time, meaning rotted. Laughter turned to small talk, passion to routine, warmth to obligation. He tried to fix it. Every man does. But once love loses meaning, it rarely comes back. Meaning doesn't vanish overnight. It fades, one small compromise at a time. When he hides his hurt, when she stops asking what's wrong, when both get comfortable with emotional absence, that's how love dies. Quietly, through indifference. And when a man realizes that, he begins to detach, not just from her, but from love itself. He starts seeing affection as currency, something to be managed, earned, rationed. He turns love into logic, and once love becomes logic, it stops being life. He no longer dreams of building something, he just survives what's left. Because solitude doesn't lie to him. That's the collapse of meaning. Not because love stopped existing, but because it stopped being worth the pain it always seems to bring. The emotional exile. When men stop believing in love, they don't vanish. They fade, slowly, silently, until they're gone from everything that once made them feel alive. This is emotional exile. It doesn't look like pain. It looks like peace. He still works, still smiles, still laughs when someone jokes. But it's all performance. He's existing, not living. Surviving the noise by avoiding it completely. He used to crave closeness. Now he avoids it. He used to want to be understood. Now he hides what he feels so no one can misunderstand him again. He tells himself solitude is strength, that peace is better than passion, that love is a luxury he can't afford. But he's not strong. He's tired. Not peaceful. Just numb. Every night, in the quiet of his mind, he wonders when peace began to feel so lonely. He fills his time with noise, work, gym, screens, not because he enjoys them, but because they keep him from remembering what's missing. He's comfortable in exile. No rejection, no risk, just stillness. He says he's fine, says he likes being alone. Part of him even believes it. But beneath all that quiet lies a truth he can't admit. He doesn't hate love. He just doesn't trust it anymore. So he builds walls no one even tries to climb. And behind them, he waits. Not for someone to break through, but for the part of himself that still remembers what it felt like to be seen and not survive it. That's emotional exile. The safest prison a man will ever build. The feminine ghost. Even when she's gone, she never really leaves. Every man who's given up on love carries a ghost, the quiet, invisible echo of what once made him feel alive. She lingers in his playlists, in the scent of an old shirt, in the way certain words still stop him cold. He doesn't talk about her, says he's moved on. But she's still there, not as a person, but as a feeling. She exists in the corners of his silence, in the hesitation before he trusts, in the way he flinches when touched like she used to. Because the feminine ghost isn't her, it's what she awakened in him. The softness, the vulnerability, the warmth he lost when she left. And once that part of him dies, something stays cold forever. He can laugh, flirt, even fall into temporary affection, but it never feels the same. Every woman after her stands in the shadow of the ghost she left behind. He doesn't want her back. He wants himself back. The version of him who still believed in forever. But that man is gone, buried beneath logic and scars. All that remains is the echo, the memory of what love once felt like, before he learned it could destroy him. The numb years. Then come the years when he stops hurting, not because he's healed, but because there's nothing left to feel. The numb years. He doesn't cry, doesn't hope, doesn't get angry. He just exists. Every day blends into the next. Work, sleep, repeat. No expectations, no disappointments. He used to think numbness was strength. Now he knows it's just absence, a hollow where his heart used to live. He can spend hours in silence and call it peace, but it's really distance. From others, from himself. Friends say he's doing great. They see his discipline, his calm. They don't see the emptiness underneath. He's become mechanical, polite, consistent, detached. His emotions muted, his heart safely caged. He doesn't feel the highs anymore, but at least he's safe from the lows. That's what survival looks like when you've been broken too many times. The numb years aren't loud. They slip in quietly until emotion becomes a language he no longer speaks. And maybe that's the saddest part. He doesn't even want to feel again. Because feeling means pain. And pain means remembering love. The modern masculine wound. The modern man is bleeding, but he's been trained to hide it. From the moment he's old enough to cry, someone tells him not to. Man up. Be strong. So he learns that feelings are dangerous, that softness is shame, that love is something you give, not something you're allowed to need. He grows up believing silence is strength, that real men endure quietly, that vulnerability is weakness the world will weaponize. So he builds armor. Every disappointment, every heartbreak, every rejection adds another layer until no one can hurt him, but no one can reach him either. That's the modern masculine wound. Not that men feel too little, but that they've been punished for feeling it all. If he's angry, he's toxic. If he's sad, he's broken. If he's distant, he's cold. If he opens up, he's weak. No matter what he does, he's wrong. So he stops explaining, stops asking for help, stops showing what's real. You can see it everywhere, in the man who works himself to exhaustion just to feel useful, in the man who sleeps beside someone but feels utterly alone, in the man who can't cry anymore because he's forgotten how. He laughs when he wants to scream. He says, "I'm fine," because that's what he was trained to say. But inside, he's tired of being everyone's rock when no one's ever been his. He doesn't want to be invincible. He just wants to be understood. But the world doesn't give men that luxury. So they retreat, deeper into silence, further from emotion, until strength becomes loneliness, and masculinity becomes a wound that never stops bleeding. The return of loneliness. He thought he could outgrow loneliness, that if he worked hard enough, stayed busy enough, stopped caring enough, it would fade. But loneliness doesn't fade. It waits. It hides beneath success, beneath discipline, beneath peace, and it returns in the quiet moments, the long drives home, the glow of his phone screen, the silence after another empty conversation. He told himself he didn't need love. That solitude was freedom, and for a while he believed it. No heartbreak, no expectation, no pain, just peace. But peace without connection is a kind of death. It's not calm. It's emptiness. It's the sound of nothing, and the ache of knowing no one would notice if you disappeared. He has everything now. Routine, stability, a practiced smile. But when he comes home to the quiet, he feels it again, the hum of something missing. He stays busy to drown it out, but at night it returns. The truth he's been running from. We were never meant to do this alone. The world told him independence was strength, but they never warned him what happens after you master it. He doesn't crave romance anymore. Just warmth, a voice that feels like home, a silence that feels shared. But when you've built your identity on not needing anyone, how do you let someone in again? That's the paradox of the masculine void. The longer he lives in peace, the more he realizes it's just loneliness in disguise. The reckoning of the heart. In the end, there comes a moment when the silence gets too loud, when even numbness stops working, when a man who spent years trying not to feel finally remembers he's still human. He doesn't break down. He doesn't beg or cry. He just feels it, that small, aching truth he's been avoiding. He never stopped wanting to be loved. That's the reckoning of the heart. After the bitterness fades, after the anger burns out, after pride stops protecting him, what's left is something simple. A quiet, childlike desire to be seen again. He thought giving up on love made him stronger. That solitude made him free. But solitude has its own hunger. It strips him down until he hears the faint voice of the boy he used to be, the one who still believes in connection. He realizes now he never lost his capacity to love. He just buried it. He mistook protection for healing, isolation for peace, silence for strength. And now he stands among the ruins of everything he built to stay safe: walls, distance, pride, and sees that none of it made him safer. It only made him invisible. So he does the hardest thing a man can do. He lets his guard down. Not for someone else, for himself. He allows himself to feel again, to hope again, to admit that love was never his weakness, it was his oxygen. And maybe that's redemption. Not in finding someone new, but in finding himself, the version that existed before the pain, before the armor, before the silence. Because men don't stop loving, they just grow quiet. They wait for the world to give them permission to feel again. But love doesn't wait for permission. It waits for courage. And when he finally has the courage to listen to his own heart again, the void ends. Not with noise, but with peace.